Alright, so got slightly out of the ordinary project here. Normally I'm working on big, heavy, broken stuff. Today, I'm probably like a lot of you guys, if I know my audience. Maybe not, I don't know. So, Mother's Day is, I was informed, in about a day. I have no card. I have nothing. This is not going to fly well because my mom's showing up. So I thought I'll show you how to do something kind of quick, which I've done before. We're going to make some metal flowers. They're actually super easy. I made these for my wife. She likes them. I think I want to make some of these for my mom and her mom, and at least not be in trouble. I think they'll like them. They're pretty easy to do. I'll show you how to do them. Doesn't take all that much to do. We're going to use, old ducting. It's actually a scrap of new ducting, but it's just thin galvanized. I tried making these a few times over the years. You want thin metal. I tried to forge some out of stainless a couple of years ago. It was awful. Don't do it. Nice thin stuff. They're pretty easy. So, maybe down here so you can see what I'm doing. So, if you look at these, they look kind of complicated until you actually look at them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of this flower. They're made out of just tin that I've bent. And then on the back, I drilled a hole in each one so I could just tack weld them together, and I stuck a stem. We're not going to go all fancy and have forged leaves like these do. We're just going to use some regular wire. But in this one, I made kind of a tulip. That one I twisted some metal and made the stem and added a leaf to it, and it's kind of cool. I don't know, neat little project. Sometimes I do art stuff. I probably should do more of it, but I'm usually behind on all my other projects. So what we're going to do, each layer as they go inward gets smaller by about an inch. So we're going to start by sketching some stuff out here. I think this outer one was probably 6 inch, something like that. We're going to try to make flowers like these. So we'll start with 6. I think, look at that. 5 3/4, close enough. So we'll make a quick square here. Mark it out. Wait a second. Is my marker dead? I don't use the fine tip very often. Evidently it's junk. How about the other end? That end works. I guess I need some new markers. We'll get to that. Just some tin snips. And you actually don't have to worry about keeping it too flat because we're going to bend it all over the place anyway. Rough it out. And you don't really have to be too precise. It's really not precise stuff. And then I'm just going to find the center real quick and easy. On here. That's pretty centered. I got just a step bit here. We're just going to put a little hole through. That way it makes it easy to weld all the layers together. Just off the edge of the table a little bit. That'll be good. These step bits, if you flip it over and stick it back in, you can use the start of the next step to deburr it, and they don't have a sharp edge. It's kind of nice. So now I got just a rough square with a hole in the center. It's not sharp. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut. So I'll just sketch down here. If you want to make something more like a tulip, you want long and narrow. So you do 4 leaves per piece. So for a tulip style, you're going to go this way. For the big fat one, I'm going to cut the corner off. And then somewhere in the middle, I'm going to kind of cut in. I want to make these big petals. And, I'll just show you. Start with round it off. And we're going to cut in. We're going to cut almost the circle. Be careful with this stuff. If you're not careful, you can really slice yourself on it. You don't want to slide your hands along it. You want to grip carefully. Gloves would probably actually be smart. My hands are pretty calloused. Not too worried about it. I'll probably cut myself pretty nice just because I said that. But. And then I find it's easier just to flip over and cut in the other side. That's pretty simple. Now we're going to take some pliers. Yeah, super precise. Just using, I got a pair of needle nose and a pair of just slip jaws. So I'm going to go through, and you want to kind of get this cup shape. So each one of these, we're going to kind of bend in a little bit. Kind of rough is fine. The odd crinkles actually make it look better. If you do too precise, it doesn't look very good. It's kind of weird. I'm used to trying to make stuff neat and good. And we're going to kind of crimp it and bend it. Try to go up. And it takes just some kind of mashing around and crunching and kind of get the shapes you're looking for. And bring it up. Now that's roughly our outer one, but you'll notice I bet the edge is back. Looks way better when you do. So come in and then fold these back the other direction. Seems odd, but it really catches the light better. Just grabbing it and bending the edge back roughly. There are a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm sure you can find info on them online if you look. But I'm not trying to make an exact replica of any sort of flower. I'm just looking for a big sort of rosy sort of deal. I'm sure if you worked at it, you could make anything you wanted as far as trying to duplicate a particular flower if you got something in mind. I mean, that's sort of rough, but get a little more shape. It's kind of what we're looking for. You get a little bit of overlap. I don't like that sharp edge sticking out, so we're going to reach in here and crunch it down. Crunch. The needle nose can get into other spots here. But anyway, there's a roughly our first one. We'll adjust them a little bit when we make more. So now, that was 5 3/4. Let's make one that's 5. We'll go with a 5-incher. That'll give us a 1-inch step. I think that's about what I wanted. This marker is pretty well dead. And we're just going to mark the center again. And then we'll do what is it, 3 here. It's about 3. I'm just going to cut a few of these out at once. Now you got the idea of what we're up to. We'll think I really went below 3. I need a 4. Snip these out quick. And this is just cheap galvanized. It's really not expensive material. So if you got a shop, you probably got something like this lying around. If you don't have a welder, you can probably do this with a bolt just the same. I do a lot of welding. It's just easier for me to weld these. Actually, this middle one doesn't really need to be drilled. I forgot about that. Middle one doesn't need a hole. The hole is just to weld the flower set of petals to the layer inside of it. So if it's all the way inside layer, I guess if you're running a bolt you'd need a hole, but if you're welding, don't worry about it. Or soldering, or you might even be able to glue them, I don't know. You can try it out. If you bend them up, doesn't matter, you're going to bend them anyway. They are sharp, I'll say that. Careful about that. I guess I'll call them roses because you can get cut on them. Bad jokes. Your final flower kind of is determined by sort of what shape you make these petals and how you bend them. So I want a big fat flower, so I'm doing big petals. Sure, if you want a frilly one, you can probably cut more petals out of it, but you don't need to cut a square or anything else. I'm just going to trim this edge because it's real sharp. A little burr on it. Okay, so we got a stack of these. So see, there's our base. I'm going to bend this so it fits in there. So we'll start by bending these up a little bit. Curve. In basic shape. Extra crunch up the middle. They get stronger as they bend too, because it's just how metal works. All the edges and creases are the strong parts. Got our edges back. Trying to be sort of uniform-ish, but not that precise. I think they look a little better when they're a little bit irregular. Which is opposite of all the machining stuff where you want it to be perfect. These, you don't really want perfect, you just want interesting. Let me zoom in a little bit. And I'm trying to fit it in here, so I want it wide enough to get another one inside of it, but I don't want to make it so wide it doesn't fit inside of this one. So it's a little bit of a bend it around a little bit and look at it and see what you think. Bend it some more. All the wrinkles reflect light, so if you keep bending it, I mean, it's not going to hurt it. The more light you reflect, the cooler it looks usually. At least it's the ones I've made seem to. I'll go into the next one. See, you got some points here I gotta fix. Not sticking out too much. Put that in. That way. So it's got points to it too. I like to stagger I don't go line them right up. Stagger them by half. Or whatever looks good. It seems to give it a more full look. See, those will sort of nest together. We can kind of finish some of it up as we weld it too. There's our first two. Good gap. I'm pretty happy with that for a start. Make the next one. Up, in, up, in. So that sort of gives us that basic shape. I just bent each one up and then the two sides in, which give you a little bit of a triangle. And then bend the edges back, and I was grabbing right here, pliers, give me one more bend. I was using the table because it kind of takes some force. You're bending against everything. Gives you that little last bit of cup action. See, that gives you a little more of a cup. Now we're going to bend the edges back. Gives a little more of a full effect. And it gets stiffer with every bend. Because if you work with metal, corner is stronger than a flat. So every time I add a corner to it, it gets a little bit stronger. So there's certain spots, like that's easy to bend there, but this spot, take a little bit more. Just because it's already curved, creased, and what have you. There's my next one. Need a little bit taller. I slid them almost all the way to the center. That way I can adjust my width and height. I don't have to use every last bit of it, but it makes it a little easier. My rough pedals, I'm just fitting it. That one will set in there. Which will set in there. Let's make another one. We may actually even need another one. We'll see. think one of these I did the center was just a 2-piece instead of a 4. You might want gloves. This stuff is sharp. About the right size. See, with no bend back, it doesn't look quite the same. But as soon as I bend these edges, I think you're less likely to get cut on them too when they're bent back. All these inner ones, the edges aren't really showing that much. The outer one, the edges are showing. They're really a look at, but also feeling up the flower display type of project. Makes it a little bit tighter. These inner ones, those even good. It's even crunching there. For a slip jaw or a water pump pliers are actually real good here. You can kind of take the corners in. Odd feeling just crunching on it. It's making art stuff. It doesn't have the same precision. The imperfections are almost the best part of some of this stuff. So it's not like you're wrecking it using pliers to just mash it. You're creating more features. More facets for the light to bounce off of, I guess, would be the way to look at it. That'll go in there. That. And I think we want one more real little guy. I'm just going to do a 2-petal. So I'm thinking maybe. I'm just going to eyeball this. Well, let's see, that was 3. I should probably do narrower by 2.5. It's about there. A little more. The width of this will sort of determine the how high it is, because it gets shallower each step of the way. It does mean I need a hole in this one though. That's how I'm welding the next layer down, is with a hole. This little bow tie. You kind of just bend it into same sort of thing as you're doing the other stuff. Crunch it in there a little bit. Flowers are frilly and wrinkled, you know. You get the wrinkles, you get the facets to show the light off. Makes it cool. Bend it, or bend the edges back. We're doing all the layers. This side's a little too tall, so we'll bend it back down a little bit. They get harder when they get small. It's just harder to get a hold of and do much with. Crunch that a little bit, and I think that'll be good. You don't have to be super fancy. It's going to drop in there, and it's going to look great. Even if it looks sort of like a twisted up piece of junk when you look at each individual piece. It's about the whole, not the individual chunk. So What I'm going for is just a frilly edged thing. It'll fit. Something like that, it's about perfect. Got a flat bottom. That'll stick in there. This will take a little bit of finessing, but it's a rough size. I think the outer one needs a little touch-up work. Try to get our shape right. Let's try that. This one pedal's a little funky. That's roughly pretty good. And it's 5 pieces of metal in a couple minutes. Let me tack this up. I'll try to show you tack welding these together. Alright, so stuff like this is a little tricky just because it's so small. I got the ground attached to the table. We'll take our center one, our next one out, and line them up the way we want them. Get a spot that lines up at the bottom. That's good. Touch to the table. Give a real quick zap and let it cool for a sec. That way it, once this first one's done, we have a little chunk of metal in there. Take our next layer. Stack them. It looks good. Try to get a halfway okay weld on there just because it falls apart and it just stinks. So it looks like right, rotate it, shift it around until you find a spot that really looks good. Off center. Make sure you're happy with the layers as you go because harder and harder to fix the inner layers as you get further out. Kind of pain. Pretty good. Pretty warm because it's being welded. You can always let it cool between bits if you really want. Kind of used to getting burned, so it doesn't really bother me anymore. That's pretty good. There. I like it just like that. Big gap there. Put it down a little bit so I can get to it. Read what I gotta do. Welding gloves are pretty nice for mashing them around so not getting stuck. I'm going to take a little bit of this off, it's just too big. There we go. Now all all I got is put a stem on it. Let's see what we got. Taking a piece of wire or something might be good for this. I got a piece of welding rod. Knocked the slag off it. It's just an old one. Once it gets damp, it really doesn't weld very well. But it gives you a really nice piece of wire. So, just shining it up. Wire is probably easier to come by, but this is what I have. There we go. Shined up, looking good. Throw my helmet on so I'm ready when I find the right angle. There we go. We got the stem on there. Camera died again. I don't know what it's up to. It's a little bit long, so we'll cut it a little bit shorter, and we're going to give it a little wiggle. It seems to make it look a little more realistic. I want a totally straight flower stem. A little funk to it. And I think we'll cut that like almost in half. Look nice in little base. There we go. One Mother's Day present. I'm going to throw it in a little bud vase. We're good to go. One more to make. I'll be off the hook. Let me know what you think. It's not my usual, but I'm not the only one who needs a Mother's Day present. Happy Mother's Day, Mom, if you're watching. But there's a little quick project. Throw that in a little bud vase. Throw some something on the bottom. Give it a little weight, some sand or what have you, and it'll be good. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment. And if you like this stuff, I can actually show you more of this stuff too. It's not my usual, but I do everything. Have a good one.